Hello, fellow risk takers, and welcome to my worst investment ever. Stories of loss to keep you winning. In our community, we know that to win in investing, you must take risk, but to win big, you've got to reduce it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people reduce risk in their lives. To reduce risk in your life, go to myworstinvestmentever.com today and take the risk reduction assessment I created from the lessons I've learned from more than 500 guests. Fellow risk takers, this is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz from A Stotz Academy, and I'm here with featured guest Mario Bekes. Mario, are you ready to join the mission?
Absolutely, Andrew. Absolutely. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on, and let me introduce you to the audience. Mario Bekes began his career with the Department of Defense, Republic of Croatia, in military police security services for 7 years. In 1998, he worked for the Department of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Croatia, in security intelligence services, secondment in Republic of Croatia Consulate General in Sydney for a further 5 years before founding Insight Intelligence in 2003. Mario, take a moment and share with us the value that you bring to this wonderful world.
Um, Andrew, first of all, thank you again, for having me on your podcast. And I like to say, what you do it's a great mission. And person without mission, not with a mission, without mission, it's lost. And I said it from my personal experience. The day when I left government service, I find myself in a bed and believing I know everything around me, but I lost the mission and I need to find this one. And it's a very common thing to people mistake civilian life with the military. It's the same. We are on a mission either help somebody through our services and our knowledge and our experiences, or we are working for somebody else mission. And that was my cause. Thank you for lovely introduction. I'm the child of communism, 14 years old. My parents kicked me out on a Christmas Eve. My grandfather took me under his wing. He was the second in charge of communist secret police in Yugoslavia, sent me in military school. And, like I believe I'm going to be the great general one day. Be careful what you wish for. 4 years later, civil war broke out in Yugoslavia, and I found myself on intersection, 18 years old, and I went in a war. Um, I'm grateful for my government and people who supported me on my quest. And I heard that expression, Andrew, maybe you're going to agree with me. It's not what you are by nature, but what you're by nurture. And on that part, I met few people who helped me to build my curriculum, educating me in intelligence, human intelligence, counterterrorism, and other aspects of the intelligence work. And then subsequently, the one day I decided to resign from military and told me you can't resign as you want because you are our investment. And somehow I've been transitioned from Department of Defense to the foreign affairs intelligence sector. That was called Directorate 7, fancy name. Uh, and I've been sent in Australia. Now, my knowledge is been all around the intelligence and investigation. And that moment, Andrew, when somebody took advantage in your life. Well, I'm here that doesn't happen again. And I built my business inside intelligence around uh, three pillars of my business, three F's. One is fear, fight, and freedom. People have the fear of losing money, losing reputation, losing intellectual property. Then the fight, I take a fight for my clients. I call the fight. Fight in terms that we are fighting for against the criminal activities, against the fraud, industrial espionage, and of course the freedom. Freedom is the most important element of all this because when we investigating or we are doing information risk management, which is covering industrial espionage, analysis of the competitors, it's the freedom that they can do the work without interruption. And that's my abundant knowledge. And again, my company doesn't exist because it's just for me, but my company's intelligence exists because of the people who are working with me in my company. So that's what I'm bringing to this world.
Great. And let me ask you about that. What type of clients, for the listeners out there to understand your business, maybe you can describe the type of Is it individuals? Is it companies? Is it big companies, small companies? What type of people come to you for your services?
I started with my worst investment, and I invested in people around me who told me that they can bring me the clients. And then I realized that nobody can bring me the clients except myself.
Yep.
And I had a one single approach. And I literally told my future clients, give me one case, and that one case was related to the insurance companies. Firstly, insurance companies investigating claims in terms of fraud, workers' compensation, CTP, life insurance, suspicious deaths, fires, and that was my start. That's what I'm supporting. That's where my backbone of my business is. It's insurance and financial sector, where we provide factual and surveillance investigations in terms of investigating claims, non-genuine fraudulent claims. So my client started as individuals, and then the growth into the corporations, um, uh, corporations in terms of pharmaceutical, and then I was going into the defense and those sectors, right? But first, I need to break the barrier. It was difficult for me because my English is not my first language. Secondly, people don't trust they look like a Russian mafia rather than the professional. But I need to take that stigmata and the push so that my clients, it's very from the small to medium-sized businesses, and as well we have the quite bit large organizations in financial, insurance, and banking sector.
So my last question about your business that I was
Yes.
just curious about was, do people, majority of the time, do people come to you when they're in trouble, or they come to you to prevent trouble?
Well, it's a two groups of the clients. First clients, which we're going on a regular basis, they send us the claims because we every year renewing the SLAs, they're reviewing our work. And then there comes the clients, as you said, who has a problem. And Andrew, you have the more experience in this one, and I'm the last person that coming, and that's what it is when uh, they don't do proper choices, due diligence with the business partners, background checks on employees. When they start missing money, the internal theft. I'm the last person they're coming to, and only reason why they're coming to me because they make it wrong choices at the beginning. So they're coming to me with the problem arises, right? So part of one group which we providing corporate clients on daily basis, individuals coming, and
Interesting.
it's painful to see how the people should do better decisions in life.
Mario, actually, I am the second to last person that they come to. Why? Because one
Why?
of my services is what I do is called Outsource CFO. And
Okay.
basically, what we do is we generally go to companies, to CEOs and owners of companies that are struggling with their accounting and finance.
Yeah.
There are a lot of reasons why people are struggling with accounting and finance, and one of them is fraud. People who are defrauding a company tend to leave a mess that is very difficult to untangle.
That's right.
And also, you have just incompetence and other things. So for companies that don't spend the time and the effort to build the right accounting system with the right people, they end up in a mess, and it's very hard to untangle that mess. And that's what we do in our outsourced CFO. And then what ends up happening is we usually will start to uncover if there's fraud. We'll start to uncover that, and then I think then we're going to have to hand them over to you, Mario.
I wish that people, including me, I know people like yourself, and I think it's somehow natural that we all have a tendency to do bad decision making. However, if you have a consistent decision making which reflecting your finances, your business, and anything else negatively impacting, I think the people like yourself, Andrew, should be there on all fronts and help the people. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the best advice that I give people is that to kind of solve this problem is before it happens is just make sure that your accounting team delivers you monthly financial statements that are always on time and always accurate. If you can consistently have them deliver that to you, then chances are you don't have a problem with your accounting and finance. And
I
so
agree. I agree with you.
to get to that point is hard for a lot of people, but yeah. Well, now it's time to share your worst investment ever. And since no one goes into their worst investment thinking it will be, tell us a bit about the circumstances leading up to it and then tell us your story.
Well, I look, I try to find the proper words, and it's not that I have no. My worst investment was actually myself. I think that was a arrogance and ego, and I fed that part of myself very very much. I believe that world owes me. I believe that nobody doesn't know things like as I do, and most importantly, I wasn't prepared to learn nothing. I truly believe that I know things better even than Andrew Stotz and people who do this business. And I believe that my worst investment I could do it was not to listen and environment, not to absorb what people do from the beginning. Instead of this, I invested into my alter ego, which drove me into insanity because I believe that everybody's going to give me the work without actually asking for the work.
Mm.
So my worst investment was not investing myself in learning how to run the business. So the operational aspect of the business, run investigation, was not a problem. The worst thing was that I believe it one day when I have the beautiful business card, which I didn't have no money going to print, beautiful desk and everything else. I invested into the exterior, right, rather than interior in me. And then for 2 years, I was struggling to understand what's happening for me.
Mm.
Subsequently, Andrew, that led to the hiring people who I believe they can bring me things, and paying hefty money, and at the end of the day being dumped. So I believe that my worst investment was in not investing in myself to learn properly from people like yourself.
So, can you remember a specific day or period of time where you really realize I'm in trouble and I've got to figure out how to get out of this?
Absolutely, I can. Of course, absolutely, I can. 14th of September 2014. It was my turning point. I did have some experience on personal level in my business when I realized that I should act differently and should noticing the changes in my business and the people working for my business, but I ignored because I real, in all honesty, every businessman should be aware of the one thing: when you're going up, you need to continue going up. But if you say like, okay, now it's beautiful, I laid back, things start changing, and I lost sight on my business. And again, I fed my ego, and of
Mm.
course, that cost me a lot of money and a lot of um, suffering emotionally and mentally. Um, but yeah, 4th of September 2014.
So, how
Thank
would
God
you?
need pharmacy.
Yeah. It's good. It's good that it's far away because
Yeah,
sometimes our worst investment can be even very close, and
yes.
then it's really painful. But so, how would you describe the lessons that you learned from this?
Um, that I need to learn. I need to learn. So I nobody can know everything what he does, and we all know how to run our business. How to operationally run our services. But what we need to be prepared to learn, and which I take it late in my life, last 4 years, 5 years, apologies, 5 years, it's to be associate myself with the people as yourself, your profile, to enhance my understanding of the business and environment changing, because nobody questioning my knowledge of investigations and intelligence, but I wanted to see how my business can be more prosperous, more profitable, not just for me, but for my clients, how to
Mm.
streamline things, how to do investment in the people, who I need to hire, what I need to look, how to hire people. So it's not just, hype inside of me. Now I take a deep breath. Do I need something? And I think about this and, other aspects. You say something very interesting, finances. Money needs to be controlled. And I have the poor understanding how to do the bookkeeping. I just give the, accountant. And it wasn't a smart idea because they don't care.
Mm.
And no,
Yep. Yep.
I didn't know what they need to do. So that was my subsequently the correlation between the bad happenings and the good happenings. The last 5 years, I invested myself to learn from people who are in business longer than me and are very smart people like yourself.
Maybe I'll share what I take away from what you're
Please.
saying. It reminds me of the book The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And that book is a great book that describes about how we are technicians or we're experts in a particular field, and then we think, oh, well, I don't want to work for a company anymore doing this. I want to set this up as my own business, you know. And he uses the example of a bakery or a person who's a baker or a plumber. And they say, you know, my boss is a jerk and this is no good. If I did this on my own, I could do it so much better. And then you go in to set up your own business, not realizing that the job of running a business is not the same job as being a specialist in an area. A job of running a business requires understanding of hiring, it's setting the strategy, setting up the accounting, you know, and finance system. And it's really a difficult job. And you have very little time to do the specialist work that you had enjoyed so much when you were working for this bad boss.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's so many people, you know, congratulations, you've survived that, but most people don't survive that and they got to go back to the corporate world. So for the listeners out there who are either in the situation where Mario was in or you're planning on setting up your business with your specialized knowledge, go get that book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It will wake you up and help you to think about how you set it up, because it's not only important that you build, you hire the right people and that you set up the right accounting system, but you've got to design your product and service to be scaled. And when you're a specialist, it's all about you and you're, you know, producing a certain amount of output. But when you run a business, you got to think, how do I scale? So that's my main takeaway. Anything you would add to that?
No, absolutely, Andrew. I always say to one thing, we are good in what we do. Maybe we specialize in some certain areas. But what I forgot, what I omitted to myself, and you know, somebody who's been in a combat and I saw things in my life, how should be properly be planned and done. I lost sight on foundation. A foundation is your accounting, your proper plan. You know, I was the guy. I don't need a plan. I know everything. I know everything. And it turns out it wasn't. So now it's my weekly plan. It's not anymore 6 months or 1 year. It's a weekly plan, which I'm meticulously working. And as you said, I like to check that book and because it's very interesting. It looks like it's very interesting. But it's like foundations are very important. Our foundations can be only established through the people like yourself, Andrew, and they need to invest into that foundation rather than just exterior.
Yeah, I think the other thing I take away too is there's the dilemma that we all face is that we can't become a master of everything. You know, you're not going to go to school and study accounting for 4 years to get your accounting right in your small business.
Yes.
So there's a balance. You're going to have to delegate that. And then it's a question of how much do I need to know about this? How much do I need to be involved in this? Whether it's the marketing of the business, whether it's the operations of the business, whether it's the accounting of the business. And how do I make sure I'm delegating to the right people and making sure? Now, in the space of accounting and finance, I think the best thing to double check that you're doing it right is just have monthly financial statements, income statement, balance sheet produced by the accountant, and you review it every single month on the same day. Pick the 15th of every single month and you stop for 1 hour and you go through it. But for marketing and others, you know, it's difficult and you're going to have to trust some people, and some people are going to rip you off and not be what they thought that you thought that they were going to be. But that's just part of the process of setting up a business, and it's why most of business fail, because you make a couple mistakes in that area and then you could be knocked out. So
You agree. I agree with you absolutely what you said. But again, if we don't learn, we're gonna fail. If we fail, you know, either we're gonna pick it up ourselves or continue. But as I agree with you what you say right now. You know, there's a mistake been done.
yeah. So based upon what you learned from this story and what you continue to learn, what one action would you recommend our listeners take to avoid suffering the same fate?
Absolutely. Before anybody goes into the business, you should clearly think, you know, not just a one moment, brief moment for the some time. Running business is not a fairy tale. You agree with me, Andrew. Running business requires a lot of sacrifices. And after all, I always say to my friend, I had a great friend of mine, and I tell this my friend, it's easy for you. You go to work today, you get paid for your job. You get sick leave, you get annual leave, everything else. you get paid. I need to fight for the money. In general speaking, I need to fight for my invoices. I need to be constantly upfront, constantly be updated. Um, and when you start running your business, I always come back to these things. You know your strengths. That's what your knowledge, experience it is. But be prepared. That is a lot of sacrifices, a lot of um, persistence must be invested into the running business. And people always think it's hard to come on top. I think it's always easier to come to top than to remain on the top, because because I'm not only hungriest one in the market as my competitors are doing, but the biggest thing we can do is invest into proper planning, proper finance structure. Because once you have this in place, how are you going to run your business? Not operationally, but your strategic, objectives reaching every day, and in future to the finances, to the planning and everything else, need to be invested into people who knows, CFOs and CEOs, and who can help you to run that business, because that's the reason why the people like Andrew Stotz exist, So that's my takeaway.
Got it. It made me think about the entrepreneurial journey is fear that we're going to fail, fight to make it survive, even though we make all these, bad choices, and then the freedom that we eventually get after 10 years or whatever.
That's correct, Andrew. That's correct. Yes, that's what I learned after many years. What I'm doing instead of, you come on networking events, which I'm coaching several executives because they've been approached through the different channels, social engineering, and they become like a honeypot. They become used for information, information they don't know. So my job is to prevent that from happening. And when I talk to these very smart people like yourself, they told me, Mari, this is the fear, I'm going to lose. It's like, okay, that's my pillars actually. Instead of, hi, Angel, I'm doing investigations, and like, yeah, okay, Mari, you and everybody else. So rather than, I will customize, this is what we're doing, so people can relate and they can say, okay, this is what I need or I don't need.
Right. So, what is a resource that you've created or you're doing, or one that you'd recommend for our listeners?
My resource is my book. I wrote it with Professor Clive Smallman. It's called The Workplace Investigation. It was a book. I wrote it entirely, and Professor Clive was an editor. It was difficult for me, Andrew, because I felt like, again, English. So, but subsequently, I entered into the program to finish my master's, which is another subject left. But this is the book I created, particularly for the people who are interested in investigation, how to run investigations, not just when it comes to the fraud and criminal activity, but you can apply this on a daily basis for analyzing competitors, or how to collect information about somebody, or competitors for your employees, or different. So that's an asset I always refer to my clients, and happy to share with all your listeners. Just contact Andrew and I'll send you the copy. There's no fee. There's no the cost price. This is the knowledge to be shared.
Got it. All right. Last question. What is your number one goal for the next 12 months?
My number goal. I wish I can say my goal is a mission to help 1 million people. I cannot say that one now, but my mission it is to reduce internal theft, fraud, and criminal activities for all my clients, current and future ones, and to have them more prosperous business and abundant business, rather than having sleepless nights, who's stolen from them and how it's stolen from them. So that's my goal.
Beautiful. Well, listeners, there you have it, another story of loss to keep you winning. If you haven't yet taken the risk reduction assessment, I challenge you to go to myworstinvestmentever.com right now and start building wealth the easy way by reducing risk. As we conclude, Mario, I want to thank you again for joining our mission, and on behalf of A. Stotz Academy, I hereby award you alumni status for turning your worst investment ever into your best teaching moment. Do you have any parting words for the audience?
Parting audience, no, I don't. I was so glued into what you say. It's so mesmerizing and magnetic. No, I don't. I just stick with with your one, Andrew. Like, thank you very much for having me today. And I recommend everybody, please listen to this podcast, My Worst Investment. First the name, secondly the host, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Andrew, for having me today on your show.
Well, that's a wrap on another great story to help us create, grow, and protect our wealth, fellow risk takers. This is a time to celebrate that today we added one more person to our mission to help 1 million people reduce risk in their lives. This is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz, saying, I'll see you on the upside.